Whether it's 6 by land or through the air, a balanced attack creates headaches for opponents.
I think it's just something we embrace as an offense because we're going to do it every single game, and it's just a part of our identity.
The defense turns up the heat on the Bruins with all systems go from the front line to the secondary.
If we're starting slow, they help pick us up, and vice versa for the offense as well. You know, we just try to play complementary football and just do your job, really.
And we recognize excellence when it comes to linebackers. This show is all about Cali. It's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside former Nittany Lions assistant coach Jay Paterno. They're 5-0 for the 4th consecutive year, and they're going to stack up a lot more wins with complete performances like the one against UCLA. They were simply better on both sides of the ball.
They were better in pretty much every phase. And, you know, UCLA is a younger team that has a good future ahead of them, but Penn State is a team for right now.
Yeah, look, they climbed to number 4 in the rankings, and this guy is number 1 in our hearts. We're bummed he's not standing right next to us, but joining us from Pittsburgh, Coach Tom Bradley. Tom, your thoughts on the Nittany Lions' comfortable victory over the Bruins?
Well, you know, it's ironic. They're number 4 in the polls, and then the front 4 for the Nittany Lions controlled the whole game. When you get your front 4 playing that well and doing those things, it makes it very easy on your defense to be able to a lot of different things, a lot of different coverages in the secondary. You don't have to have another guy, you know, with the run game and doing different things. So that front 4 and being ranked number 4, good place to be.
Yeah, they show balance on offense, force UCLA out of their comfort zone on defense, and shore up the special teams in our opening drive. Annual stripe-out game in Beaver Stadium. Only October home game of the season, and they get the job done through the air and on the ground. Nick Singleton sits this one out. Not spectacular, Jay, just steady as she goes.
Well, the weather was spectacular. I mean, this is the kind of October game you dream of, but they were steady. They got the things done. UCLA gives them some credit. They did a nice job with a first-time starter, kind of keeping them from making the big turnover. But ultimately, Penn State got it done and did it comfortably.
Tom, their offense has shown a lot to defensive coordinators. A lot of balance, a lot of skills players. What are you looking at as a defensive coordinator when you see Penn State's offense?
You better figure out a way to stop the run. Because as long as they can run the ball as efficiently as they're doing and not turn it over, you're in for a long afternoon.
Yeah, they have given opponents a lot to think about, including the occasional up-tempo, 2 plays back-to-back as fast as they can. It is a wrinkle the offensive guys really enjoy.
When we're getting heavy personnel, it's hard to match up to us, and then when we're able to spread the formation wide into an open set, it causes a great deal of stress, and I think it's just something we embrace as an offense because we're going to do it every single game, and it's just a part of our identity.
It's an advantage for us just to go out there, run a certain amount of plays, and then just huddle up, hurry up, get on the ball. It doesn't get a defense a chance to set up, so just keeping them on their toes and, like, out of those plays, we have explosive plays, explosive runs, passes that we can get to.
It has been mostly effective, especially when it creates a mismatch because the defense is unable to substitute.
The defense faced the backup quarterback from UCLA. They did a nice job kind of keeping them from making a big mistake. But also Penn State's defense kept them from making the big plays. And how important is that, Tom?
It's very important. If you have no big plays, no missed tackles, it looked like they didn't have a lot of missed assignments either. It's going to create a long afternoon for your opponent, especially when you're playing in Beaver Stadium.
Yeah, we mentioned the balance on offense. The defensive players feel like they are doing the exact same thing.
As we keep playing these weeks, I feel like we just getting better and better, you know, just playing better complementary football. That's something that we harp on, just playing complementary football. The D-line helps us out. We help the D-line out. You know, if they're starting slow, we can probably pick them up. And if we're starting slow, they help pick us up. Just do your job, really.
Yeah, they're all doing their jobs at a high level. They will be tested this weekend by the Trojans. And I would not exactly describe the third phase of the game for Penn State as special for the first part of the season, more like ordinary when it comes to kicking in the return game. But they shored things up a little bit last Saturday. Not a lot of yards, Jay, but any positive yards on a punt return is appreciated.
Well, no question. First of all, the most important thing in a punt return is catch it, because if you don't catch it, it bounces and you lose yards. So they're making the catches and then they're getting some yards after. But that's going to be there's going to be time this season where they're going to need a big punt return.
Yeah, and Tom, Ryan Barker takes hold of the place kicking duties. He drills 2 field goals, one from 25, the other from 40, a perfect 5 for 5 in kicks. It's just in time to gain some confidence before going on the road. So when you go on the road in a tough atmosphere, you're talking about this third phase of the game. They had better be ready on special teams.
I think as the season goes on, there's games where the special teams have to step up. You talk about it all the time, a third offense, a third defense, a third special teams. Well, there's games during that season when the special teams have to step up, and they've got to win the game for the football team.
Well, the special teams takes a step in the right direction. Every yard, every kick is going to be magnified with their toughest regular season opponents over the next few weeks. Don't go anywhere. Still to come, we go a little deeper with the third phase of the game discussion. Coach Paterno shows us why the Nittany Lions' roadmap to victory over the Trojans is going to require superb special teams play. You're watching Nittany Game Week.
Roadmap to Victory is sponsored by the R&R family of companies.
You can blame Coach P.J. Fleck in Minnesota for this game not being a top 10 matchup against USC. The Golden Gophers upset the then 11th ranked team in the country, 24-17 at home. It gives the Trojans 2 losses already. They're going to be highly motivated to bounce back with a strong performance at home against the Nittany Lions. It's not often Penn State has a chance to beat a top 10 team on the road, but there's no sense in lamenting what could have been. Coach Paterno, when you examine the unranked Trojans, it sure looks like a dangerous team capable of giving the Nittany Lions fits on the West Coast.
This is a very dangerous team with a lot of really talented skill guys and matchup issues, and let's get into it right away. Let's talk about USC's offense. That's where you really see some good numbers. They're going to be very aggressive. They score 30.8 points a game. They're balanced. Their run game is good. Their pass game is really good, and they've done a lot of nice things in certain situations. Let's talk about how they get those matchups. Their wide receiver core goes 6'4", 6'1", 6'6", and Branch, the short guy at 5'10", is electric with his hands on the ball, and they'll get it to him in a bunch of different ways. So one of the things about their blocking scheme, there's a lot of block down and pull, which gives them angles, which is something that when you play a team that likes to get up the field like Penn State can create problems. So again, when they do that in the run game, the wideouts go downfield, run pass option, and they get the back in. Woody Marks is a heck of a back. They get down there, they get their blocks, they get him, and he runs hard to the end. They're very aggressive with that run game, so Penn State's got to start out by thinking about stopping that run game. Now, once you get into that situation, we're going to stop the run game. Now you got matchup problems. 6'4", 6'6", 6'1", and 5'10". You got to figure out where you're going to deploy your best cover guys, because you got to figure out which one of these wideouts you got to take out of the game, and the height. The running back is also part of that pass game, and we'll look at him in a second. But here's Deuce, who wears number 2. He's the 6'6" guy. Number 8 is the 6'4" guy. Watch those two guys. They're really dangerous. Now, we talked about Marks in the pass game. He runs routes like a wideout, has great hands and great catching ability, and has caught a pass in 50 straight games. I mean, watch this catch. That is incredible. Great catch. Watch for him. Now, what gives USC problems? Against Michigan, it was pass rush, no question about it. And Michigan did a lot of movement, and it's a newer offensive line. So when you make guys move and switch like you'll see in this one, it's hard for them to find. Those guys make those switches. You'll see right here, the guard gets held up, and then the tackle does. Next thing you know, Moss is getting hit, and the ball comes loose, and the turnovers have been a problem for them in the 2 losses that they've had. So now let's talk about USC's defense. Last year was a major liability for them. Okay, they really gave up a lot of points. And the biggest difference is Danton Lynn, their new defensive coordinator, a Penn State alum. You look across the board in every major defensive statistical category, and they have made massive improvements. Really, the thing that jumps out is your third down defense. They are really, really good. That is a major change. So Penn State's going to have to be good on third downs and good in the red zone. Let's talk about how they get that done. They're going to be aggressive up here. They normally play with 3 linebackers. One of the problems in Minnesota is 18 Gentry, who is a kid from Philly, did not play at linebackers. They played with a safety. They weren't as stout. But again, they're going to try and take this away and make this a 9-on-9, 8-9 game. The other safety's back there to keep you from getting the big plays. Tackling is going to be important. Breaking tackles, running through contact will be important for Penn State. Now, go to the next phase of this thing. And you talk about they're going to do some things and try and confuse quarterbacks, and they're able to do that with their nickel, and their nickel is 3 corners, so they can play you man-to-man and then have a safety to help, 2 safeties to help. Here they're going to show blitz from this boundary and bring this off the edge. That gets their defensive end one-on-one against your tackle, and they're aggressive in the secondary. Now, the last part of it that's given them problems has been teams that have run the ball against them. Michigan has done that. Did a lot of block downs, kickouts. Penn State has used a very similar scheme with an extra offensive lineman to do this, coming across. And then the running backs, when these safeties are down, you have to play action pass them, or what we call bring your own blocker, BYOB, which means you've got to break tackles, which is what Michigan's backs did. That's why it'll be important to see how well Singleton's running early in this game, because he's been the one guy. Now, we've talked about 2 phases. Third phase is special teams, and they are special. Lead the country in net punting, and their punter leads the country in punting, first in the country, 50 yards per punt. And their special teams return guy, Zachariah Branch, is electric. Watch the vision here, the change of direction, and getting up the field. Teams have not punted to him this year. I don't expect Penn State will, but if they do, look out, and it could be a long day. And offensively, they'll get him the ball a lot of different ways as well. But he's versatile, he's exciting, much like Todd Sadowski.
Oh, so that's all they got? No big deal. Not much to worry about. Well, USC is calling it the Battle of the Blue Bloods. The last time the Trojans and Nittany Lions played each other on a non-neutral field back in '94 at Beaver Stadium. Of course, that year's squad is one of the best in PSU history. They dismantled SC 38-14. 3 decades later, they'll meet at the Coliseum. And head coach Lincoln Riley understands a deep and talented football team is going to occupy the visitors' sidelines.
You could tell that they've kind of been in their program for a while, right? It's the depth of the roster. You see some of those things in terms of, like, when their backups and all that come in. You kind of feel like, all right, this is a pretty seasoned team and seasoned program. So no, they do a good job. They challenge you on all sides. It'll be a good challenge for us.
And as we've mentioned, the guy tasked to stop Penn State's offense used to suit up for the blue and white, USC's current defensive coordinator, former Nittany Lion Danton Lynn. And it was great to see former Nittany Lions linebacker Paul Posluszny and his family between the quarters on the field against UCLA. Posluszny has been elected into the College Football Hall of Fame, and he was being recognized for the accomplishment in front of the home fans. The ceremony is in Las Vegas on December 10th. Time to take a quick break. When we come back, our Impact interview is with former head coach and current college football analyst Rick Neuheisel. What impressed him about Penn State's win over his alma mater, UCLA, and why he feels they match up very well against USC. Nittany Game Week returns after this.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. This week, our Impact interview guest is Rick Neuheisel from CBS Sports and the CBS Sports Network. Not many people know the college football programs out west better than Rick, a former head coach at Colorado, Washington, and UCLA. Rick, thanks so much for joining us. We'll jump right into it. Look, this is now a Big Ten conference game, Penn State and USC. I know we got to get used to that annoying chant at the Coliseum, but for the Nittany Lions, what is the biggest challenge about playing the Trojans on the road?
Yeah, if you can get used to hearing conquest, you pretty much have solved the issue. Listen, Penn State comes in with a complete team. Andy Kotelnicki has done a great job offensively. I know it's looked a little pedestrian maybe the last couple of weeks, but there's been some big plays in this offense which I know is much to the delight of the Nittany Lion fans. And defensively, they're playing great football. If that continues, they'll have the right recipe to go into the Coliseum and win. Lincoln Riley has been an offensive mastermind for his entire career since leaving East Carolina and going to Oklahoma. And he's got 3 Heisman Trophy winners under his belt, 3 first pick in the NFL draft guys under his belt. I mean, he's got a resume and then some. But this particular quarterback, Miller Moss, to me, is not the extender of plays that maybe he's enjoyed with Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams and Baker Mayfield and even Jalen Hurts when he transferred from Alabama. This is a pocket quarterback. And to me, they're going to have to lean on their running game more and make the Nittany Lions stop their running game. In the 2 losses the Trojans have suffered, they've run the ball for more than 4 yards a carry in both of them. And yet, it's interceptions that have cost them the game.
So, Rick, let's talk USC's defense first. This was a problem area for them last year. They get UCLA defensive coordinator Danton Lynn, a former Penn State player who took UCLA's defense from 87th in the country to 10th a year ago. They've seen 30% improvement across 6 major defensive categories. So what's been the biggest difference to that improvement?
The left hand knowing what the right hand's doing. Always in defense, you got to know where your help is. And to me, one of the knocks on Alex Grinch's defense, the former coordinator, was it was complicated. It had lots of, exotics, as we call them in the business, right? In terms of trying to confuse opponents. And so you try so hard to do that, you confuse yourself. That, and then noticeably the poor tackling. They were just a bad tackling team. I don't know if that was a product of not practicing it, trying to keep people healthy or what have you, but both of those things have improved this year with Danton Lynn running things, that people know where their help is. Poor tackling got them against Michigan on that final run by Mullings, go 67 yards. But for the most part, they've been pretty good in that regard. That was certainly on display against LSU and Wisconsin. And even against Minnesota, it wasn't a lack of defense. It, again, going back to that offense, it was too many turnovers. I like what Danton Lynn's done. He's a bright light in coaching, and won't be long before he's a head coach in this business.
Rick, the offensive side of the ball, USC has some really impressive skill players. How much of a matchup problem do you think this is going to be for Penn State? And how important is that pass rush going to be for Southern Cal?
I think it's critical, and it was the key for both Minnesota's victory and Michigan's victory. As a matter of fact, at halftime, we were on the field there in Ann Arbor for that game. They made a wholesale switch at tackle. The Trojans did at halftime. They brought their right tackle to play the left tackle because he was getting beat so badly, and they moved somebody else in to play right tackle to try to give Miller Moss some time. And they started going some up-tempo, Tom, so that they could try to slow that pass rush down. But to me, that's the key to the game. If you let Miller Moss sit out there and count the house, he's going to hit you because like you mentioned, they've got plenty of good receivers. And it's imperative that the pass rush be a big-time emphasis for the Nittany Lions this week.
Appreciate Coach Neuheisel for taking time to speak with us. It's going to be a fun one in the Coliseum. And make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com to see all of our Impact interviews, along with other web-exclusive content like our depth chart and Nittany Game Week podcast. Almost time to announce our scrap medal winner, which is plural this week. As in scrap medal winners, this group forms a formidable wall against the Bruins to get the job done. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week.
The Nittany Game Week Depth Chart is brought to you by Burke and Bradley Orthopedics. Located in Pittsburgh, Burke and Bradley Orthopedics is a comprehensive sports medicine practice, providing patients with the most current and innovative approaches in diagnosis and treatment. Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Time for our scrap medal, and the numbers don't really tell the whole story. The guys up front didn't lead the team in tackles against UCLA. They sure did create chaos and set up a wall to contain the Bruins offense, Tom.
Boy, they sure did. I'll tell you what, I know everybody waits to see who wins this award every week, but this is definitely the defensive line week. The front four controlled the line of scrimmage. They allowed only 93 yards, 3.2 yards per carry on 29 rushes. The pressure on the quarterback forced UCLA into short throws the whole game. Less than 6 yards per attempt for the Bruins. Also 2 sacks, and didn't give up a touchdown until there was less than 2 minutes in the game.
Yeah, they definitely set the tone for the Penn State's victory.
All right, now it's time for the trivia question. Last week was about UCLA. Penn State lost to them in October of 1967, did not lose until 1970. How many games was that unbeaten streak? And the answer was 31. John Ketchison from Osceola Mills, Pennsylvania, is our winner. Now, this week, it's USC themed. In the first New Year's Day Bowl Fiesta Bowl on January 1st, 1982, Penn State held this Heisman Trophy winning running back to just 85 yards on 30 carries. He had forced 2 fumbles from him in the 26-10 win over the Trojans. Who was that running back?
Another good question from our quiz master. Nittany Game Week is much more than a television show. Make sure you check out our depth chart at nittanygameweek.com. The depth chart is a collection of businesses that support the show and provide our viewers with places to eat, travel and shop, or professional services owned and operated by people with a special connection to Penn State. Here's the best part. Everything you need to know about the program and our sponsors can be found in one location. Make sure you check out nittanygameweek.com to consume our web-exclusive content. That is also the place to submit your pride pictures and show us your spirit. Can't wait to see how many Nittany Lions fans are in the Coliseum for a rare road game against USC. For Jay right here in the studio and Tom in Pittsburgh, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.